Do you ever get the feeling that history is repeating itself? Like you can remember years and years ago just feeling so shocked, so astonished that Barack Obama was elected president of the United States. You thought, wow, I thought this would never happen within my lifetime. I thought I would never, see this. An African American gets elected to be president of the United States. And then, a few years later, you feel the same way when you find out that a white millionaire from reality television has been elected president of the United States. You're sitting there thinking, what, Donald Trump I never thought I would live to see this day. I never thought I would live to see Donald Trump get elected to be president of the United States. Do you get the feeling? That history is repeating itself?
Niggas know that they fucking around with real G's. Who do you think you are? Things heavy all in my truck.
Look, guys, it's lawsuit season. Vegans are suing vegans again. It's fashionable all over again. I started this trend. All y'all copying my style. You owe me 10%.
I don't do much. Sit on the block in that lavender range, waiting for fiends, pass them the cane. Y'all niggas.
And you will sell out your own friends, and you break all your own rules. Okay? You defame me and say malicious things that impact me and my divorce and my ex-wife and my daughter. You have no limits. You have no druthers. You have gone from being someone who people cheered on heroically because you spoke truth to power. You challenged powerful people like Durian Rider when they were doing things that are really immoral and really criminal. And now you've become someone who panders to Durian Rider. Now you've become someone who pretends Durian Rider didn't do anything wrong when he threatened to murder me. When he threatened to have people beat me up in the street. Cheetah, you took a positive situation where so many people believed in you and so many people supported you because at the time when it really mattered, you stood up and did the right thing and said the right thing in a storm of controversy about Durian Rider. You made a lot of videos that were entertaining and informative and that told the truth. And you destroyed that. By telling lies and by trying to exploit your friendships with other people to make little nickels and dimes, telling fake stories about their sex lives and their private lives and their moral failings. That's what you've become. You've become somebody worse than Durian Rider. You are the lowest of the low. Anna Scanlon sent me a totally cute email saying, "Hey, I'm pulling an à-bas-le-ciel, like I'm pulling a U." She sent me an email saying, "Hey, I'm gonna do this lawsuit and do a fundraiser." Asking for donations to support the lawsuit to pull Cheetah into court. And she's quite right. She's biting my style, Let's talk. Defamation has consequences. There's a difference between defamation and simply being vulgar. There's a difference between defamation and having a lousy sense of humor. There's a difference between defamation and criticism. And the difference is defamation is a crime. It's not subtle. It's not a small or minor difference. Cheetah, you make your living. You earn your living through slander and defamation. And you know that. These are issues that I know for a fact Cheetah understands because I've discussed them with him myself. And, I think to some extent, anyone with a shred of human sympathy can understand them. Defamation has consequences. Defamation has personal consequences. What's written on the internet is written there in pen, and it stays up forever, especially if the offending party doesn't delete it. I have a new girlfriend. When I was first getting together with my girlfriend, her parents were finding this stuff on the internet, this terrible stuff that was said about me. And I had to meet her parents. I just talked to them via Skype, but still. Now, I don't think her parents were directly the ones using Google, using the search engine. I'm pretty sure that she had a brother, and the brother was putting my name into Google, and then the brother was telling the parents, and then the parents were telling her. So you had this whole broken telephone situation where lies that were made up about me by Durian Rider and by Cheetah himself were getting back to my girlfriend's parents. And my girlfriend was asking me, what should she say or what should I say to her parents, whatever. So there were personal consequences, and the personal consequences are not short-term, they're long-term. There are emotional and behavioral consequences. Anna talks about the fact that other people say they would love to start a YouTube channel, they would love to start a blog or a website talking about veganism, talking about their aspirations of vegan politics, but they're afraid. of the consequences. They're afraid that what happened to me will happen to them. They're afraid that what happened to Anna will happen to them. They're afraid that it'll cause a problem either at work, professionally, or with their girlfriend's parents, that kind of thing. And I think there are really interesting questions of how it changes all of our behavior. I posted a photo of myself recently, myself with my girlfriend. And, the photo says at the top of the bottom, I want to share this photo with you, but I can't. And in the end, what we decided to do was blank out my girlfriend's face. And covering her face, it says, imagine how the world would be different without internet bullying. It's just a selfie of me hugging my girlfriend. It's no big deal, but it's a really nice moment for the two of us together. And instead, it ends up being this statement on the fact that I want to share private moments like that with you, but I can't. So there are changes, there are impacts in our behavior. And, those have knock-on effects for the future of the movement, right? There are political consequences. There are changes for how the movement as a whole behaves when you scale it up. You're looking at hundreds of people or thousands of people. And when you look at individual people like me trying to get ahead. We're both trying to push veganism ahead, and we're trying to get ahead of ourselves. After Durian Ryder denounced me, so thoroughly denounced me and defamed me and said all these terrible things about me, what position am I in if I want to do fundraising for a completely legitimate, completely normal vegan cause? I have a children's storybook I'd like to publish. If I'm going to do fundraising for that storybook, where am I at when I have somebody like Durian Ryder defaming me and claiming I'm a scam artist? How can I ask for donations for a very straightforward vegan cause if there's a chorus of voices that are really seriously defaming me, accusing me of crimes, accusing me of criminal misconduct on the internet? And to give another example that may seem less salacious, but it's really just as important, Durian Ryder claimed again and again that I am pro-vivisection, that I am a vivisectionist, that I support torturing animals to death for medical experiments. Now, don't get me wrong, it is really possible for someone to do an intelligent video criticizing my view on vivisection. To say it really briefly, I've pointed out that vivisection, although it's horrifying, although it's morally abhorrent to me, although I do oppose it in principle, vivisection is not obsolete, whereas shoes made out of leather are obsolete. So I have a kind of nuanced discussion about that, where I point out there are some medicines we can't replace, there's some medical procedures that rely on vivisection that are not obsolete. So ethically, it's a very different situation for vegans as individuals and for veganism as a movement. So I have talked about vivisection in a nuanced way, and I could be criticized in a nuanced way. But it's actually a very interesting form of defamation, because if you just claim, as Durian Ryder did and as some others have, if you claim that I am pro-vivisection, under Canadian law, that is defamation, because it impacts my ability to do fundraising as a vegan activist for whatever causes or projects I want to undertake in veganism. So even though that's much more subtle than someone making up a story that I had a love affair with a 16-year-old Romanian girl, both of them are defamation in an interesting way that's worth talking about. Now, look, I remember, one of the interesting responses to this problem was Joe Vegan saying that he was morally opposed to anyone having to pay for access to the legal system. Okay, that's fine. But who is going to draw the line, and what's going to happen if we refuse to participate in the justice system simply because there is a barrier to entry? Anna Scanlon is asking for $15,000, 15,000 American dollars. It's a significant cost. It's a significant barrier to entry. If you want to form... Now, look, I'll say this very simply. I do not believe that access to medical care should be based on the ability to pay. If you have two people who both need to get cancer surgery, I do not think there's any moral justification for a society giving the surgery to one person and not giving it to the other based on their ability to pay. I think that's a fundamental moral problem that all modern societies have to face. I do not think that access to justice per se, I do not think that access to justice should ever be based on the ability to pay. If there are two people who have both suffered the same injustice, I do not think there's any justification for one of them receiving justice and not the other because of their ability to pay, their ability to hire a lawyer, their ability to pay legal fees. But there's another side to this that maybe you guys haven't thought about. People tend to think about taking someone to court as if it were the worst thing imaginable, as if it were the worst case scenario. And it's not. When people do not have access to justice, they will more and more resort to violence. I want to say straight up, Cheetah, if you watch this, this is not a death threat. Cheetah, I am not threatening to harm you in any way. But I've got to tell you, on some level, you know, all around the world in many different cultures, there are all kinds of people who would harm you, who would beat you up, who would stab you, who would kill you for what you've said. Now, Vegan Cheetah today lives in Los Angeles. And Los Angeles is a cultural melting pot. There are some people in Los Angeles, Charles, who will make you pay the price in blood. And I really wonder, Charles, if someone finally takes you off the census. If someone finally kills you because you said they have AIDS, because you said something about who they're sleeping with or who they're not sleeping with, because you made up some dirty little lie about their sex lives just so you could hold the attention of your live streaming audience for another few minutes. If you keep crossing the line with people this way, you know, sooner or later, it's not going to be a lawsuit. Someone is going to take you off the census, man. You're going to be in a cardboard box. Should I even say a plywood box? You're going to be in whatever kind of box your estate can afford. Again, this is not a death threat. Why do these systems exist? Why do we have these traditions within the West? Why do we have a culture of allowing people to sue one another and get restitution for defamation? Why does that exist? It's to make us less violent as a species and as a society. This kind of recourse to justice exists so that people do not have to take the law into their own hands. It's so that people are less likely to use their own hands, to use their own knives, to use the forces at their own disposal. And it's a goddamn shame. It's a goddamn shame that Anna has to ask for $15,000. Because you know what's cheaper? You know what costs a lot less than $15,000, Charles? It would cost a lot less for her to pay any number of organized gangs in LA to hunt you down. I don't even think that would be $5,000, Charles. Why don't you ask around about what kind of favors you can buy in the greater Los Angeles area for $15,000? There are alternatives to dragging your ass into court, Charles. There are deadly, serious alternatives. And people like myself and people like Anna Scanlon, we're not thinking about getting even. We're not thinking about revenge. We're not even thinking about silencing you. We're in the ethical minority of people who are really seriously thinking about the future of the movement. And all I can say is you've been lucky so far in that you've only been tangling with people like us. But don't push your luck, because the vast majority of people aren't here. They're not thinking about the future of the movement. They're just going to be thinking about either how they can shut you up, shut you down, or how they can get even.
Like, why play the fake vegan card? Like,
Cheetah, you are a fake vegan. You asked me about the use of the term fake vegan. It's used to describe people like you, because you're a parasite on this movement. You're not making a positive contribution. You're doing your little bit to exploit and destroy the movement. You are a fake vegan, Cheetah.